All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Old Reader, New Reader. Welcome, Amanda and Omar.
Hello.
We're here to talk about Why the Last Man.
Hey,
Yeah.
What's up? How's everybody doing?
great.
Good.
How are you all?
Yeah.
Good.
Good,
I'm
good.
alive.
I just realized I have a live show every day this week, just about on the channel. I did not mean to schedule all these things together, but this is what happens when you're trying to leave the country on vacation within 30 days. So,
Yep.
yeah, I'm a
Almost
little.
exactly.
I am getting a little. What's that word called? Anxious. Anxious. I'm getting a little anxious.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah,
That'd be
this is one of my favorite books. I own this book in absolute format because that to me is the absolute way I can tell people I
awesome.
love this book that much. If it means something special to me or if I really like the art. Hence why I own some absolute garbage books. And I don't know why I don't own absolute All-Star Batman because that book was horrible, but it's got beautiful artwork.
Amanda, you've read it before too, right? Because
I've never read it before. I
okay.
have owned them forever because Corey, my husband, was a big fan. So I have it in like such a Mod Podge. Like he has the first 2 issues in trade paperback, and then the last the last sets are all in hardcover.
Yeah.
Is how we have it collected. I think it's just when he started reading them and then caught up to what was available was only hardcover, so that's what he bought. But yeah, I never read it before. I just knew the premise because he would talk about it and he was very into the books. And then of course I started watching the TV series, just never finished it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
This book originally came out around 2003. It was a Vertigo project, so it was one of Karen Berger's projects. Brian K. Vaughan was still kind of new to the scene. He had written some things, and he's one of these guys that like kept going between television and comics. He got burned out on television because of Lost. When he figured out that in Lost season 3, like season 3 was the season with Brian K. Vaughan as executive producer. That's the one with what's his name? Hurley? Is that his name? The big guy?
Yeah.
I've never seen Lost.
You've never seen Lost. Well, you're not missing out on much. When he got into the van.
From what I understand, yeah.
But by the time he got to season 4, he was like, oh, these people actually don't have a plan. I'm out. I'm going back to comics. So it's really interesting to hear him talk about these things. And he's written some of my favorite stuff, including Saga, including this. He also had this series called Ex Machina, which is very interesting to read, especially nowadays. But this I wanted to go back to read because in 2003, it meant so much to me as it was coming out. And I got him in trade paperback. And I became a trade waiter towards the end of this run. And then I got my wife hooked on it. And she wasn't my wife at the time. We were just dating. And then we got engaged. And the final book, this is such a special book to us because the final trade paperback with the final 6 issues came out the day before we flew to Japan. So we were like, let's read it right now together. So we read it on in our back porch. And by the end of it, by the way, we're going to have spoilers. So if you've never read this, please, go do yourself a favor and judge it for yourself. We were both in tears at the end. For different reasons and for the same reasons. Yeah. And it just meant so much to us. About 10 years ago, I decided to reread it to see if it still held up. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is still pretty good. There's some things that have aged, but that's comics, though, right? That's comics for you.
Yeah. It's of the time. You know?
Absolutely.
It is of the time.
You have to think about the political climate at the time. And you also have to think about, like, the amount of exposure stories like this got. So 10 years ago, I reread it, and then I hadn't read it since then, since 10 years ago, and I came back to it for this show. So I'm excited to talk about it and see if it still holds up or not. So
yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, Amanda, first thoughts, and then we'll get into like the nitty gritty. So
yeah. First thoughts. It is definitely of its time. Yes. And I mean, and that's fine because I remember 2003 very well. So I can reflect upon that time. But no, first thoughts initially, there's a lot of characters I really like in this book, including Yorick sometimes. Sometimes I like Yorick, but sometimes I don't. But 355 is probably my favorite character in the whole book, followed by Allison Mann. And I really enjoyed it. I thought the ending was very kind of tragic in a way for Yorick at the end of the day. I thought it was very tragic. I know we're going to talk about spoils and we'll go into it, but It was very tragic, and it did make me tear up. I wasn't expecting that because there were parts of it where I thought the story dragged. And I know when you have an ongoing series and you have to have the fillers because they're not going to find out what created this plague that, spoilers, it kills all the men. That's why it's called Why the Last Man. And I know we're going to take a while to get there. And I know we're going to take a while to get to him finding his Beth. I know it's not going to happen in the first 6 issues. So there's some stories for me, little story arcs that I was like, I kind of skimmed over them a little bit because they just they were a little bit boring for me. But other than that, the main story, Yorick's journey with these 2 women that he's been with for 3 years at that, I think 3-4 years before they find Beth, is what I enjoy the most. And that ending was beautiful. So.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like for people at home, if you haven't read this, I think if you like post-apocalyptic, zombie long-running books, but you wish that the zombies weren't there.
Yeah, there we go.
This is kind of it.
Watch Last of Us.
Yeah, watch because there's no zombies.
Yeah, so if you wish that was the case where you had a big, huge moment that affected the entire world that kind of disrupted literally everything, but you really hate the zombie part of it. That's basically what this is, because suddenly it's all the men are raptured away.
Yeah,
I say rapture because one person said rapture.
Not just men, everything with a Y chromosome.
Everything male, yes.
Right.
So everything eventually will become extinct, and that's kind of adds a lot of pressure to some of the story here.
Yes.
But also the sickness happened abruptly, so just like any sort of zombie film in a similar way, or whatever, Thanos, whatever. All people are dying at once. You have the planes crashing and everything happening, and just you see in many destruction or big. Jessica said no zombies and also more humor than other post-apocalyptic events. Yes, absolutely. But I guess let's jump into it. So I guess the first. We now have a habit of choosing very long things, but I was trying to think about the best way to break this up. And I was thinking maybe the first part would be, I guess the beginning before just the beginning of with everything happening in York connecting with 355 and with Dr. Mann, and also the pre-event would be a good thing to talk about. So I guess overall thoughts about that.
One of the thoughts I wanted to say is that if you're reading this for the first time and for some reason don't mind spoilers and are watching this, it's not a page turner. This is definitely not a page turner. I went into this thinking, I remember all these things. I can't wait to get it. And at points I was like, oh my God, why is this taking so long to get to the things that I liked? And
yes.
I think it's the excitement about it, reading it for the first time and then going back into it and oh wow, that is a long way to get to point A to B, because the whole thing is really this weird journey of Yorick. I love these names, by the way, very Shakespearean, so it's really funny that Amanda called it a tragedy. So
it
is. So his point is he finds out that the world has ended, like Maddie said, and again you got to keep in mind the time, 2003. Most of the men or the pilots were men, right?
Yep.
So planes crashed. I love when the lady, his mom, what was she? She was a
Secretary of Agriculture or something.
Secretary of Agriculture says when she finds out that she is now president of the United States, she's like, what are you talking about? We have the vice president. We have this Speaker of the House. We have, and they were all men. And
well, some were women, but they died in plane crashes.
Yeah, that's they died in a plane crash because Air Force One went down or something.
When I heard about this, right, it was it reminded me of that not Twilight Zone, but Outer Limits episode, but very similar premise about the last man on Earth. I think it becomes a joke to a lot of men that, the last man on Earth, that's going to be the greatest thing ever, right? You're going to repopulate the planet. You have no competition. You don't think about the scary ass shit that's going to happen and what could really happen. And now that we've lived through a pandemic in 2020, a lot of the shit that happens in here, at first I was like, there's no way women would react like this. Now it's
we have learned
some women would react like this.
Like the wives. I thought from somebody who's like studying a lot of like, I don't know, government things.
Yeah.
The way that the wives of those politicians reacted when they were like, we should be given those seats
Because
our constituents need representation. It should be given to us. Like you're not the person who did it. You're not the person who ran for office. What are you talking about? But it was just very interesting. And I thought they could have, I feel like the whole plot line with his mom was interesting, but also distracting. But at the same time, I wish it had more credence added to it. Because I know the show put a lot more emphasis on what was happening with the government and how that was working and how cities were working in a really interesting way that didn't happen as much here. But at the same time, reading it, I think I was like, I just want just Yorick and crew. I don't want to hear about anybody else. Like, I don't care how anybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think there definitely could be a world of Why the Last Man, and I would have read that miniseries, like expanding on
that would have been
how
cool.
the rest of the world was reacting, because we only get to see, a group's journey, kind of like Lord of the Rings style of like,
very much, yeah.
We're going to go to Australia because my girlfriend left me with a cliffhanger of whether she's going to be my wife or not. That's the journey, which is so Yorick and so stupid because the world just ended, but he needs something. Like he feels like he has to have a purpose. And I think there's a lot of beauty and sadness in that he feels like he's chosen to not really repopulate the world, but just go and find this one true love that he thinks he has with, Julie, was that her name?
Beth.
Beth, thank you.
Multiple Beths in this.
That chick.
This is Beth
I can't wait to talk about her.
Beth DeVille.
So yeah, he meets 355, who's the secret agent for this secret organization that is has existed since the days
assigned to him.
Washington, and she has been assigned to him. There's all these red herrings that are thrown at you at what could have caused this, like this necklace that should not have been. Was it an amulet? I think
it was an amulet.
Yeah, it was an amulet that she took out of what country was it? Jordan that she took it out of?
I think so.
It's over there in the Middle East. She took it out of there, and then that at the same time you have this happen. And then he also has a ring that he got at a magic shop that was like an ancient ring that was supposed to be given to Beth for his as a engagement ring, but that could have been it.
Electromagnetic fields.
Yes,
right, because when you throw in the astronauts that crash land on Earth, and there were men in there, and he couldn't save any of them, and they all burn alive, and you're like, oh wow, really? All the men are now dead. That's it.
Yes, I do like the twist in the astronaut. So in the story, there's astronauts who are in space. Obviously, whatever affected Earth couldn't affect them because they were in outer space. And there's 2 men and 1 woman, and they crash land, and the men die in the crash. But the woman, they were able to pull her out first because the men made sure she got out first, and then it blew up. And she happened to be pregnant. She didn't know which one it was though, because apparently when you're stuck up in space, it's a free for all.
Good for her.
Good for her. I was like, that was not what I was expecting. Yeah. Obviously, once the baby was born, we knew which one it was, but that was
so Dr. Mann with the most ironic name comes into this because she is a genetic specialist. She's been studying clonage and how to repopulate the world.
Another red herring.
Like how to make women keep living.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when his mom's like, wait, if you're alive, that means that maybe we can do something with your DNA and repopulate the world as it was. Right. Maybe not this generation, but the following generation.
Yeah.
And we talked about some women, we haven't talked about the Amazons yet, or attacking the sperm banks, because some women are happy that men are gone.
Yeah.
There's groups of women everywhere that are happy that men are just gone. Like that's and some of them
a lot of women with like trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who have chosen to be like the Amazons and also to mutilate their bodies like Amazons did. Right. So cutting off the one breast. And then like attacking these like very violent groups. And I guess like they're the epitome almost of like the violent group that you would see mostly in these things.
Yeah.
Like these types of stories.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And they're pretty scary. And the show did push that a little more too. I won't bring up the show too much because last time I did that.
Did it?
Yeah. They did a lot of the Amazons. It's really interesting.
And then that's where you find his sister, also named after a Shakespearean play, Hero. Right, she ends up joining the Amazons, and so there's all these like coincidences that keep happening in his life that again pushes the idea that he is the chosen one, even though he's the most boring, annoying a lot of times, type
loves
of
his magic.
lead.
Like he is
Yes,
the
and
lead.
which is the whole reason
That's
why
what's
he got.
perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so the
Oh, yeah.
beginning, we didn't talk about the importance of the very beginning is him trying to break out of the straitjacket.
Oh
That
yeah, so
comes
we
into
should talk
play
about
later on.
he wants to be an escape artist. So his mom is this big figure. His dad is trying to get tenure at a university.
Yep.
He's well off. He is when we meet York, he is jobless. He has a girlfriend he wants to propose to, who is obviously going to say no, and who does? Who would have said no? And he's got nothing going for him except for he's got a monkey.
That he just happened upon and decided to buy.
He's like, I signed up to have a monkey, and I have one, and so that's what he's got. And he doesn't have much else. He barely has any money to his name. He's just eating ramen noodles. He's he's a big old dork.
Yeah,
and he's kind of a loser.
Yeah,
but and everything happens to him by accident. I think that's what's the beauty of this. It's just like,
yeah,
is this a destined thing? Is this all just accidental? And really, at the heart of it, it's just this. It just happened to happen. It just happened to happen to him. But honestly, I think it's a better him, this kind of, derpy kind of like ignorant, naive guy, than a guy who would take advantage of the situation, because he really doesn't.
No, he doesn't try to seduce any of the women they come across. He tries to hide himself the best that he can.
And poorly, and not for long.
Not for long. He's very bad at hiding at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I say loser, I mean like what they would call him.
Well, yeah,
I was gonna say, I think
hero, right, in a story like this,
he was the perfect kind of character for this type of story, because a lot of people that were reading these stories could probably see themselves in the character, right? Like, oh, I could see myself doing. I'm a good guy. I would never do anything. Oh man, all these bad things happen to me. Of course, something similar. Instead of all these women wanting to, jump my bones, I would get arrested, like at the very beginning and things, and then he's able to escape.
Yeah. Also, this book was of its time in many ways, but props to this book for not doing any like a sexual assault scenes, because they could have done that. And other stories that have done this, like, oh, I'm the last woman or I'm the last man of them, usually do. And they're like, I'm going to kidnap you and have you be used, right?
Oh, of course.
And they didn't do that.
Well,
and the bar's low.
There was that dominatrix type thing with 7-Eleven. I know it's not 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. You call her 7-Eleven?
Is that what it is? 711. Okay, I'll call her 711.
7-Eleven is okay.
355's like partner, I think, is what she was.
Yeah.
And they leave him with her in a cabin. And it was a very interesting scenario where she kind of like tortures him to the point where she thinks that he wants to commit suicide, that he's living dangerously because he's trying to find a reason way to die. And then she gets it. She is able to torture him enough to prove to him that he doesn't want to die. I think was her reverse psychology that she was trying on him.
Because she was saying that, like, your mental state is also tied in with like, or your mental state, your like desire to live is also tied with sex as well.
Yeah,
is what her thinking was.
Exactly.
It was just a very interesting form of therapy.
Very interesting. Now he remembers it. I mean, later on, after that whole thing, I think he gets like another flashback when he's passed out, gets knocked out or whatever. When he was sick, that's when it was. When he got sick because he decided to eat the tomato can and got botulism, and he thought he finally caught whatever the other guys got.
Yeah.
Poor Yurik.
So I do want to. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And you know what? Let's just jump all over it, because I think that's just the best way to talk about it. I do think it's worth talking about the relationship between the trio and really talking about that, because it's so interesting and dynamic the whole way between Yorick and 355 and Allison.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, they all, with the exception of just, there is romantic entanglement throughout here, which I applaud them for.
Which
it's an entanglement.
It was done with taste.
Oh yeah, it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
Exactly.
And it could have not been at that time.
You spend so much time with somebody for so long. I mean, things are going to happen.
Yeah.
Especially in a scenario like this, when it's like an apocalyptic type of world, and holy crap, everybody's trying to kill this guy that you're, or trying to get him, or trying to keep him, or whatever it is.
Revealing himself when you're trying to hide him.
But yeah, it is an interesting dynamic, because, over the course of these 3 years, they form a very deep bond, but there's obviously instances, and you can tell where York develops feelings for 355, but then 355 and Allison have a very interesting entanglement.
That broke his heart.
On the boat that broke his heart, but it didn't mean anything to really either one of them. I think it's just in the heat of the moment, they've been stressed out and they're now in this confined space. They're alone and they're just kind of letting these feelings. Because then, of course, Allison finds the one-eyed Australian pirate lady. What was her name? I forget her name.
I like that name better.
Yeah, and of course we know that 355, because throughout the time together, there's hints that she not really a fan of this whole idea of York going to see his fiance or potential fiance, and she doesn't like other women. And there's a reason why he didn't tell her that he slept with other Beth that was in the church that he had found, and then also impregnated, unbeknownst to him.
And they were very good about it too. Everyone's very mature about it. Honestly, the whole crew, because they know they have feelings for each other, but they're still chill about it. Honestly, I appreciate the thing between 355 and Dr. Allison. I like that scene so much because you can see them getting closer.
Yep.
And 355 asking for her glasses and puts it on to where it's obviously blurred for both of them. And I was like, that's such a good symbolism, because I think for them, it's not about who it is.
Yeah.
And it's not, they don't want to be too focused on who they're being with right now, but it's the escape and it's the safety and the blurriness in that. I thought that was really, that was really sweet.
Putting it.
Yeah. And the way that York was like, I'm upset, but not because you two were together, but because you found something like that together.
He doesn't have it. Yeah.
And I'm alone. I just have this monkey I talk to. I lie to you guys all the time about how I'm feeling, but the monkey is the only one I talk to. Ampersand.
Poor Ampersand.
Oh, bless Ampersand. Great monkey.
Oh, he Ampersand is one of my favorite. I don't want to call them pet characters. One of the things that I appreciate about this, and I think this is where a lot of misconceptions happen. Like if you read the first couple of story arcs, I've seen a lot of gripes like this online, and not by many, but you know how loud voices are. Oh, this is such a man-bashing book. I don't need to read another crap like this. But I think there's a fair balance, because yes, there are going to be crazy people out there after an apocalypse, especially an apocalypse of that caliber, because we're talking about the extinction of all Y chromosomes. So the only thing that what can repopulate itself, I guess, is the asexual worms or flowers, right? But, but there's also a fair balance, because there are moments like what was the play? Was it a play about opening the jar when they were talking about like, I miss men because I cannot get this goddamn jar?
Funny. I loved it. Yeah,
so
like things like that, like that make you think. Oh, there are things that it's not just one-sided. It does make you think, and I think that's what I appreciated, and I still appreciate about this book, that it's not just all women are evil or all women are going to try to use this guy. It's or they don't need men anymore. It's just small little cults, and that's what happens. And there are other people that are suffering and handling this their own way. So
I didn't read it as man bashing, but granted, I'm not coming from that place. But
it was a comment that I would see often in forums, that I'm not reading any more of this man bashing type of book, and they didn't really make it far enough for it.
I mean, maybe the Amazons, but that's just one group. I mean, there's other groups clearly that they had sons, they had the husbands they actually did love that they don't have anymore, and regardless of what you think about the world and gender in it, you can still miss those people, even if they're the rest of the gender may not always be so great, but stay on their side too, because now there's no men. You start to see other women taking advantage of other women when it comes to getting supplies and things like that. I mean, so what was it? They had the one scene where York ended up killing that girl, and he didn't mean to kill her, but they were pretty much in the desert, right? And there was a group of thieves, if you will, and and of course Dr. Mann and 355 were taken by them. So York was by himself, and then the girl came to attack him, and he ended up killing her. And he had never killed anyone before, and that was a big deal for him. But so you can have women be bad too. It doesn't matter, just because there's no monopoly on that, guys.
And I can see people, they probably think that too because York is a weaker guy. He has none of this training.
He does.
He doesn't have the survival
Right,
instinct.
he's not your stereotypical type of hero or lead, right? Definitely
Yeah.
not somebody that would have been cast in the 60s, like for like a movie. Like I said, the episode of Outer Limits that had the same kind of plot, you know, where it's the guy that everybody wants to repopulate this world.
Yeah.
But the journey was so hilarious to me too. Like you're gonna go see your girlfriend and you're taking along these two other women. You're just dragging them along, and on the way, you know, you get to meet all these different things, all these different obstacles, including going back to the beginning with what is her name? Or what do they call her? The lady from Jordan
Altair or Alter. I kept saying Alter.
Alter, yeah.
Alter.
Including her, who plays a big role through this. Yeah. And how they they want to capture him.
Yeah.
And I liked that whole theory because if US has the last man, every country would be fighting over this because that's control, right? Who has the power now?
And he's still incognito during this time until they find out that this is a man. There was a really interesting plot about was at the very beginning. And I read that last couple of weeks ago whenever they voted for this book on Patreon. The part where the lady's talking about missing her boyfriend and having to shoot him. But she was referring to it was an actual woman because they were like questioning, like, wait, what do you mean your boyfriend?
Oh,
like, don't you mean how is your boyfriend still alive? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Trans.
Yeah. That was
which makes
2003
sense.
It's really interesting, like the way that was worded and the way it was handled.
Yeah, I mean the language was. If you're reading this, you don't know your trans language. Don't use any trans language in this book ever.
Yeah. 2003.
It's 2003. And that's one thing the
Yeah.
TV show did add. They did have groups of like trans men together. Like, what does that mean? What kind of role do you fill in society then?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, because then things change for you. You do have a role you can fill for people, whether that's like. They talk about sex work a lot, where trans men are like women who, or it's not all just trans men. Some of these are women who dress up as men for sex work.
Yes.
And how that is different now.
Yeah.
Now that was very interesting.
Well, of course that's bound to happen.
Yeah, because there's a role to fill. There's loneliness, right? And there's
the same thing would happen if all women were to die, right? Like the exact same thing would happen in a different scenario. So through his journey, you know, he gets closer and closer, like we were saying, to 355. He feels a bond with her, but he's still determined to go and see Beth. That by the time you get to the final arc, you know, he finally meets up with her.
Yep, finally.
Okay. And oh my gosh. So they, of course, she has a need. She hasn't seen him in so long. 3 years, right?
Oh, yeah, I get it.
They copulate. They come together.
And they get it on.
They do.
Oh man, I forgot about that picture of 355.
The one with her and the
leather thing.
Yeah, her leather.
I love. I mean, like reading up to that whole point, I was like, "This is going to be underwhelming for you. We're going to get to this moment, and it's not going to work out because you guys have had this vision of each other in your heads for years. It's been years since you all seen each other, even longer than like, when things happened because she was traveling, you guys were separated. It's not going to go exactly how you think it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get this.
You're different people.
Splash page of Beth, and she's like Yorick Brown. And I remember reading this in trade. I was like, "Oh my god, it actually happened! Like he actually found her."
You did,
and we knew it was coming to an end. And I'm like, we still have a lot of issues to go. I mean, we still got about 6 issues to go. Where's this going to go?
Well, I remember being just so sad. I don't know about you, Amanda. I was happy for him, but I was just sad at that moment because right before this moment, it is very clear how 355 and York feel for each other.
Yes.
And she gives him this long scarf.
Yeah.
And she's like, I know you're going to meet her. Adorable. And then she just walks away. So he sees Beth, looks back, 355 is gone.
I know.
Oh, and
so when Beth shows up, I'm like, I don't care about this.
I don't care about Beth anymore. I don't care what her journey she went on because she had a vision that he was in France. And so that's where she went. I don't care about any of that.
I don't know this girl.
I did not care for Beth. And now, but then even after all that, and of course, him and Beth realize that this isn't going to work out. And he finally, talks to 355 and they kind of, and then of course,
I do not like that. I understand. I understand. Oh, we need to be sad. Nothing's perfect.
We can't have a happy ending.
Are you for real though? You didn't have to do that shit. It didn't add to the story to do that. It did not add to it.
To do what?
To kill her.
Oh, you absolutely needed that. No, you cannot write about a post-apocalyptic future and have a happy ending. It's not gonna happen.
Especially some people had happy endings.
You've read Brian K. Vaughan stories, none of them have happy endings. Like they all have to have. And I remember. Okay, so first we have to talk about this because this is one of my favorite shots. Like I remember going yes. I remember reading this, and she's like, I was gonna break up with you, and he's like, what? Because his whole purpose up until this point was to find Beth. Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes, go run back to 355. They have this beautiful okay, I gotta get to this scene because this is one of the most heartbreaking scenes to me of any comic. Like it's like to me it's no, that will spoil a TV show and I don't want to do that. Oh my god.
What?
Okay, so, I don't want to talk about a TV show because it reminded me of something that happened in a TV show where somebody gets shot and killed, and you're like, I remember reading this with Melanie, and at the same time, we both said that motherfucker. Like she was mad, like she was mad and crying, and she was like, "No,
I was mad too."
Like that. Oh my god, it was so.
And it's holding your eye.
Oh yeah, I like that. I like that image too. That was a great.
Like she's, it's his happiness. It's everything that he's wanted, and it was right in front of his eyes. And when they finally get together, they can't have that moment. It's taken from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, that's what the rest of this goddamn series is going to be about. And I was so pissed off. And it did turn into that, right? Like he's just holding her, like for like the first 5 pages, he keeps just rubbing her head, like maybe she'll wake up.
Yep.
And it's so sad. I was so pissed off. Like comic books have put, I mean, I guess that's a kind of like, what they're supposed to do. Movies and comics are supposed to make you mad. And that was definitely a moment that pissed me off in comics. It was one of those deaths I saw coming, but didn't see coming. Not like that. Because it was like that. And it wasn't fair.
Should have killed him.
So the rest of the series is all about who owns Yorick.
Yep.
And what's gonna happen to him?
Yep.
God, and then the rest of his life is just sad.
I know.
It's like, well, I'll go with Consolation Beth.
Yeah.
Let me go marry Consolation Beth.
He tries to make it work with the Beth he had a kid with. Tries to make it work.
Shaves his head.
Man. And then
Brittany moment.
It doesn't even make it. He wasn't even able to see Allison Mann before she passed away. Like, I mean,
we go 60 years into the future where they've kind of repopulated the world.
They have,
with using DNA. Right. But before that, we have to talk about what killed all the men, and what his purpose was. Because to me, that was one of the most really messed up and both satisfying moments in comics. Like, when he finds out that he's not special, that it was just monkey shit that saved his life. Yes. Like, it's so wrong, right? But yet it makes sense for a story like this, that he gets pissed because he handles it the same way any of us would have. Like, what? I'm not special. There's nothing special about me.
You just looked out.
Monkey
you got
shit.
A monkey.
Yep. It's not your DNA or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh man.
And honestly, it's probably best that you never potty trained your monkey. Which apparently other people were like, yeah, it's super easy to potty train a monkey. It takes like
that's true. When they were in Australia,
what?
When everyone had the capuchin monkeys, and they're like, oh yeah, it's totally easy. What?
I love that we ran into so many of those monkeys too. I thought that was great.
I know.
So at the end, the final issue number 60 is him, sitting older, 60 years later.
That hair, man. Oh my god.
Still trying to break out of this stray jacket and talking to clones of himself, and then you get flashbacks of what ended up happening to his companions, his characters that played a big part in this, who Hero ended up with, which I think
Hero ended up with Beth.
with Beth.
Of course, his sister ended up with Beth because that makes sense, right?
Because that made sense.
But by then he had let go, and he does get to see Rosie, right? He comes in, but it's too late for Dr. Mann, of course.
Yeah.
He had already passed away.
Rosie, that's the pirate.
Rosie was the one-eyed pirate.
One-eyed pirate. That was funny.
And God damn it, every time
I thought the ending was beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, before the ending, when Ampersand dies, gets me every goddamn time. For anybody that has lost a pet, it's one of the roughest parts to read because right now we're going through our cat that's having issues in the house, and you get to a point where you think you have to do them a favor, so he's fucking feeding him, right? Knowing that what he's doing is killing Ampersand.
Yeah.
And eventually
he thought it would be faster. That's what's hard. He's like, I thought this was going to go faster.
Yeah, because he said they promised it would be quick. And oh my God, because anybody that has ever had to put a pet down, that's the immediate thought. Like, why did I do this? I could have waited longer. Like, oh my God, motherfuck, that gets me every time. And then,
because he even says, like, even no matter how many clones of Ampersand they had, they couldn't get him right. Yeah,
right.
Right there. That was
man. That splash page right there.
Yeah,
and he's at the, I guess, grave of 355 too.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh, yeah, that's rough.
I thought it was perfect. I love it. I love that it ended with a flashback of them talking about death and what that would be like.
Yeah, me too.
Because if this was like a TV show or movie, that would be perfect. Because then you're sad, you're crying, right? Because you're grieving all of this, and then you have like your happy moment of all them together before things changed.
Yeah,
and I love that he escaped out the window. I thought that was beautiful.
Finally, I love this image of the stray jacket, like the letter Y, of course, and alas, he finally gets out of the stray jacket, and that's where this freaking amazing journey ends.
Yeah.
And that's why The Last Man, all 60 issues. Stupid ass Ampersand.
It's always gonna get you
every time.
It's always gonna get you.
I love him.
Yeah, even some of his little side adventures I enjoyed as well.
Oh, it was great.
So what did you all think of your first read through? I know you knew because of the TV show some of the things that were probably part of the plot. But what did you think about the comic book experience of reading it from issue 1 to 60 issues, right?
Yeah.
About six. Actually, there was a little bit of a delay. So I would say like almost 7 years to come up with this. So what did you all think about this comic?
So I could see where some of the things have been more impactful had I been reading them as they were coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Like thinking about, like you talking about your experience, even like trade waiting. Of how that must hit when you're like, I think about Saga, right? And like reading that as it comes out and how all those beats hit a lot more. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed like the base of the story when it's focused on Yorick and Dr. Mann and 355. I love that a lot. I would get a little lost with some of the side things because I just didn't care. So like with Alter and stuff, I felt bad, but it did not connect my brain at all. Anything that she was doing, I was like, I don't care. I don't.
Yeah.
You're going to show up when you show up to mess things up. I don't care what you're doing until you get here. Which is not proper. That's probably how I read.
Yeah.
But I thought it was this very successful epic of a story. It felt like an epic. It felt like a very long journey that we all went on with them together. And I loved how fallible these three were. Because they were not perfect and they messed up all the time. And York ruined everything for everyone all the time. And I love that. I love that. No matter what they do, York is going to take his mask off. Like, hey, what's up? It's me, the last man. They're like, stop doing this. You have got to stop. And he's just like, nah, it's cool. Stop it. I had a great time. I think there's some things I would fix, like just overall pacing, I think. But like,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it. I guess he was to be like required reading.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of it's like backstory of certain characters that we need to have to understand some of their motives in the present day, right?
Yeah.
And maybe like I agree with you, Alter's, stories, arcs, and where that was going did not really resonate with me as much as some of the other flashbacks that we get for other stories. I enjoyed seeing what 355 came from, and Allison's story, because her father played such a pivotal. We even talked about her father and the fact that he had already cloned her.
Yes.
And he sabotaged her own. So that was the red herring in the first book, or in the first part of it, where Allison was pregnant and giving birth, or had to go in for an emergency birth at the same time that all the men died. And of course her baby didn't make it. So we all think that it's a boy, but it turns out she was cloning herself. It was another girl, and she was trying to beat her dad to the punch. Talk about a kind of relationship that is. And then her dad's alive this whole time.
Yeah,
and then to find out
his dad's behind the monkey.
Yep, the dad.
Oh my god! And the fact that they showed up, man, when they showed up, he showed up. He's like, "Oh, I'm still alive," because he knew.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, "Oh, I messed up with you, so I cloned a bunch of you, but also I still hate you. And the day that I cut your umbilical cord was the best day." And I'm like, "Oh my god, choose blame.
This guy is terrible." And he clearly didn't love her mother. He liked his assistant or his co-worker more. And it was Matsumori, Dr. Matsumori. I think that's his name. He was something else.
Man.
Yeah.
I remember reading that for the first time. I'm like, wait, this dude's alive? I didn't see that coming. There were a lot of things that I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
It was interesting to hear reactions to the show based on if someone read the series or not. To me, York changed the tone a lot. I think comics York is a lot lighter and injects more humor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
What did y'all think of the artwork? That's something we haven't talked about. We've talked about, the plot, and of course part of this is a visual media. So what did you think of the art? I know there were some, it's Pierre Guerra at first, but then there's a couple of fill-in artists towards especially the second arc.
Yeah, I liked it just fine.
Yeah, I thought it fit the tone of the overall story very well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked some of the splash pages that were in here too. So I liked the way the characters were drawn. I thought there was a lot of great differentiation between the characters. So I never felt lost when they were talking about when we had certain characters. I know there's been times where I've seen some artwork where I'm like, I don't know if that's the same person or not.
Right, same face.
Yeah. And it's hard because you have especially with all the women, it could be so easy to draw so many women. Even the two Beths, they could be drawn so similar, but yet they have such a different, look to them that you can really tell. So
he's like, "Don't worry, I got you. I'll put a scar on her face."
Yeah, what?
So that way, when you meet her child in the future, you're not going to be confused, even though you will be for a second.
Yep,
it's cool. This isn't her.
It's not her.
Okay, I'm trying to think what else I wanted to say. Did it need to be 60 issues? What? I mean, Maddie, I know what you would have cut out. What about you, Amanda? What would you have chopped?
Oh God, I definitely think the alter storyline, and then there's some rant. In the beginning of book 5, I think it was. Well, in these book 5s, there was some story between two women going to the funeral of the president, and that whole. I think I might have cut some of that out as well, and maybe some of their side quests that may not have been as integral to the plot. I don't know. I know the reason why we have. I don't remember the ninja assassin that works for Matsumori.
That was so weird.
It was so weird, because it was just another person, monkey wrench thrown into it. Same with the whole reason why Alter was sent to find York in the first place. Several people were supposed to be watching out for York because his mom apparently couldn't trust 355 and couldn't trust this person.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I could see some of that being cut out. I would have been.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think.
Also, the ninja thing was a choice, but it's fine. It's 2003. But yeah,
I'm
mom. I was like, I don't care. I don't care what your mom is doing. I don't care if they could have had Alter just be, work for Israel and that's it. Just she's just getting them to get him.
Getting them to get him.
So I'm of two minds. I said this was a little bit of a chore to read this time around, third time around, and I knew what was coming. And I think that's what happens, right? Whenever you're rewatching a movie, whenever you're rewatching a TV show, you're like, get to the good stuff, right? Yep. You're like, I've already read this. I know where it's going. So it's a little bit slow paced, especially at first, till you get to know these characters. And then part of me is like, oh, I wish they had fleshed this out a little more. I actually like that foreshadowing with the funeral and all that in that volume 5 which would be like issue like 50 or so.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we needed more of that because maybe I've been Grant Morrisoned. My brain has been Grant Morrisoned in or Alan Moore in that I'm okay with a lot of foreshadowing. Maybe make it a little more artsy, like go back to BC. Like the creation of man, women. I would have been cool with that. That's what Alan Moore and Grant Morrison would have done. But for the most part, I think it was, besides the pacing, I think 60 issues was okay with me. To this day, rereading it, I think it's still one of these books that makes me think, and it's successfully funny still, I think. A lot of the jokes still land. It's definitely a grim future we're looking at. And just completely mind-blowing what he was able to accomplish in 60 issues to get people attached to these characters and following them on this ridiculous journey that if you took a step back, you're like, what? Why the hell am I reading about a guy traveling with 2 ladies and going to go see his girlfriend? No, this sounds like a road trip, like stupid type of movie.
That's
plot.
exactly what I want.
Exactly.
But it was great.
They had a purpose. First we go to the lab. Then we go get the girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was first.
And then we lost the monkey again.
Then we lost the monkey again.
God.
Oh, and then the lab got blown up. So we got to find the other lab. And
Yorick gets kidnapped yet again by either his sister or some kind of crazy lady out there. And I
was surprised by how fast. Like, I understand that the city where Hero ended up and got captured after the whole showdown, and then 325 killed Victoria, the leader of the Amazons. Yeah. And I know that they did they got rid of her brainwashing and everything like that. And I feel like I was thinking that she would be more of a villain, like a tragic, like villain / good guy throughout the entire thing. She kind of went straight up being to a good guy, not as complicated. I mean, she still had a complicated backstory, but I thought I was expecting it to last a little longer, I guess.
She just needs some friends, I guess.
She just
Same
needs
with Rose. She's like,
pictures. She just needs to take some pictures.
It's all good now.
I do want to get to the comments in the chat here in a second, but I think.
Oh yeah, do our rating.
I think that's all I needed to say about this. It's beautiful. Still made me cry. And the ampersand death still gets me every time, and I still find a beauty in that final page that he is brief at last, and that's what started the series with him trying to break out of the straitjacket.
Yeah, this feels like required comic reading, like regardless of whatever rating I end up giving this.
Yeah,
I feel like it's required reading.
You should know. I think some of the commentary in it still fits too. I mean, maybe some of the ideas or some of the things that are happening, it might be dated, but overall, like themes and things like that, I think are still very relevant today. I don't know what that says about the fact that this is 2023 and now we're 20 years later, but but I think it still that stuff still holds up to a point.
For sure.
So ladies, what would you give Why the Last Man, the entire omnibus, or 3 absolute editions, or 5 hardcovers, or trades, or single issues, the entire 60 run? Ladies first. This has to be ladies first because
I'm leaning towards a 7.5 or an 8.
7.5 or 8.
I was gonna give it a 7.5.
Okay.
I enjoyed it, and there are some parts for me that slowed it down a bit, but overall, that ending I think stuck it for me.
I think to this day still one of my favorites. This is definitely a 9 for me. I love this book. It means a lot to me, and it's special in our house. And didn't love it as much as I did the first time reading it. Maybe that's why I hold it so high. But absolutely, I love this. And it's definitely a book I don't think, or at least I think that you can give somebody that doesn't normally read comics to read. And be like, hey, I think you would like this. Because this definitely reads like a novel. It definitely reads like an independent comic. Yeah, absolutely. So, what has anybody watching right now that has read this book? Let us know what you would give this out of 10 too. I'm curious what the chat thinks. Was this Brian K. Vaughan's first published work? No, he had done he did Batman and he did Wonder Woman. But this is kind of
never
what
puts things in order.
But this is what really put him on the map, though. This is the one that was like, oh, well, I'm gonna keep an eye on this name, and he did like an issue of Ultimate X-Men. He did some stuff for Marvel, and then he did Ex Machina, which was another. Well, it wasn't Vertigo. I'm sorry, that was a Wildstorm series. But he liked to do his own independent stuff. And then we did like We Stand on Guard. I read We Stand on Guard while I was in Canada. Like that was a lot of fun because it's about a Canadian like apocalypse or dystopian future.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah, he's definitely somebody you can trust with any like long story.
Yeah.
Oh, especially with Saga. Let's just hope it sticks to the landing. Out of curiosity, what else has Pia Guerra done? Don't think I've read any books she's worked on. After this, I don't know what else she did after Why the Last Man, because I know she did some things for like Spider-Man Unlimited. She did some things for, was it Doctor Who? I found her name.
She's been working on Doctor Who for a long time.
I was gonna say
it says Doctor Who from 2008 to now. It doesn't have an end date on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
So
that's all I remember her from. And here and there, she would do an issue of something from Marvel Comics, like Spider-Man Unlimited, like I said. Not the original series, but later on.
Yeah.
But, yeah. See, a 9.5 from a buddy, Chris, when I read it, but I don't know if that would still... Yeah, it's hard to go back to revisit this. Roberto Rodriguez does not like this. 20 out of 10 from...
William Lee.
8 out of 10, maybe 8.5 due to the tearjerker ending. No other book has done that to me before. It's hard when you throw an animal in for a lot of people, right? You throw an animal in and immediately it's like, you don't give a crap what humans get killed.
Just like other recent films that I'll never watch again in my entire life. Ever.
That's exactly what I thought of when 355 got shot right in the head. That is exactly what I thought of. And we're all thinking.
Yep. Never
Someone
again.
else had the love of their life torn out of their fingertips too.
Jessica, I've not read in a few years. 8.5 out of 10 from what I recall. Pacing is what holds it back a bit. Yeah, I can see that. Ex Machina is his best work in Pride of Baghdad. We reviewed Pride of Baghdad about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh man.
That's another one where
Overheard has been happening for 5 years as of last week.
Well, this is our 5-year celebration, so I'm out of wine. Damn it.
Oh no.
I would be drinking with you, but I was sick, so I'm not gonna do that.
Well, I don't have any wine in my house right now.
Me too.
I'm glad you're feeling better. But 5 years, golly.
I know. Isn't that ridiculous?
5 years?
I've been doing live YouTube shows for 5 years.
Why? I'm just kidding.
That's crazy.
Tony,
what was the first one? Was it Infinity Gauntlet or
it was Infinity Gauntlet?
Gauntlet, yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Sometime last week, 5 years ago, we had done Infinity Gauntlet. Yeah. James knew. James knows. He's the one I trust.
James knows everything.
I'm just like, hey, James, how long am I doing this? He tells me.
James,
I don't know. Here? It's weird. Where's James?
7 out of 10 is I thought the storyline and pacing was dragging a little bit. I can see that. Yeah. Dude, you brought up PBR. You remind me of my 20s, Kingsport Cal. No one seems to talk about The Escapist by Brian K. Vaughan. That's a good one. That was a...
Oh, I heard that.
Is that published by Dark Horse, I think?
James is here.
There he is.
Hey,
James, 5 years ago, right?
No matter what changes in my life, James is my rock.
Oh,
he's the man I can depend on.
Dude, that guy's an encyclopedia. He helped me with my hidden gems. I'm like, I've done this book twice, James. I need help. So he got all the books we've done from hidden gems. So make sure I don't mention them again. You keep doing them, I'll keep blocking. Thanks, nice. Mark. Thanks, Mark is good people. So next month, I am going to Japan, but I would love to do one more of these before I leave. So
pick a day when Tuesday when you're here.
Yeah, pick something short
and sweet. What movies come out in June?
The Flash.
Flash. Okay, The Flash.
Oh, how long you asked? Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I don't know what are you looking for.
Is it Into the Spider-Verse?
Into Spider-Verse comes out too.
Okay, yeah, what I'll do, like I did last time, is I'll pick out some stories and I'll put it on our Patreon for people to vote them. Because I like doing these once a month. I can't do them every week. I would love to. It's just a lot on my plate, and rereading 60 issues of something you bastards voted for. I don't know why y'all didn't pick the 60.
I read it today, so it's always good to have some.
You are insane.
But I'm
Oh
gonna count every volume of this on my Goodreads instead of all in one go for my reading challenge. So
I kind of want to read some classics like some Uncle Scrooge comics. That would be good. The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck. But I'll let the Patreons vote. I'll put up 4 or 5 books they can vote on and get some reading done, because I love doing these. I love revisiting these stories. I love getting my books off the shelf and dusting them and reading them. And that is the whole reason why I buy these things to begin with. And it gives me a reason to get them out. And revisiting old stories. There's a lot of good things coming out as far as like movies and TV shows we can tie it into. But yeah, I'll pick like some 6-issue miniseries. Did we do Civil War or House of M?
We have not done.
We did not either.
Or New Avengers. I'm curious if we've done. Oh my god! I coming on the show. You know,
I like how let's read something short. Have you guys read Civil War? Civil War's House of M.
7 issues.
Oh wait, you know, like the Civil War. Yeah, I read it by myself because I was curious, but. And I realized, wow, this is very different. I
just got here. Is it over? I bought Why the Last Man Omnibus about 6 months ago. I have yet to read. It is over, but
it is over.
You should read it and judge it for yourself. I gave it a 9. These ladies give it 7.5. 7.5, both of them. So together, that's like 15. Reading exercise for the brain. Absolutely. Old Reader, New Reader, History of Violence, Road to Perdition, From Hell. Look at you well-educated dude. Did we do? Oh my God, From Hell. That is a journey. Like, From Hell is not easy.
Oh, I love From Hell.
The movie or the book?
The movie or the comic?
The book.
Oh, you've read it? Oh my God, it's so
good.
To me, it's up there. It's not quite like Watchmen level, but it's so good because it's one of these things like all this shit happened. Alan Moore's a genius. He did it the homework. It really happened. Was that the doggy?
That's Elliot. He's
okay. Oh yeah. Have you guys read the short Civil War miniseries that has over 100 tie-ins? No. We would only stick to the miniseries because you know what? That's what Mark Miller did. Mark Miller didn't give a shit what anybody else was doing in his show.
He did not.
He did whatever he was going to. One day we will do Onslaught, and that's when I will stop the show. That will be the final video that I do.
And one day the patrons will vote for Bitterroot. One day they'll vote for Bitterroot.
I was so disappointed in the build of that omnibus. I've been waiting years for a hardcover. It's a book that I've pushed on people, and the damn omnibus comes out and it's messed up. The binding is so messed up. Like, it's cracked.
Yeah.
Damn it. The art in From Hell was very difficult to get through. Ugh, that art was rough. There is the colored version too of that, and some of the things have been recolored, and some of the angles and some of the panels have been retouched. It's the remastered version. You may like that a little more than the black and white. I read From Hell when it was serialized and taboo. Wow. Marvelous stuff. Absolutely. Old Reader, New Reader. Is that it?
Yeah, I don't think we're ready for that.
Yes, James. Yes.
We don't think we're ready for that.
We'll do it the other way around, though.
Maybe on my 40th birthday. Maybe
these two will get drunk, and I'll be the sober one, so we can do it. Give it justice. My Bitterroot's still wrapped, afraid to even open it. I think they'll come out with a second printing because I think they stopped printing that version.
We can always read a Milestone book too. Amanda, you. Have you read any Milestone stuff?
I've not.
Oh, you'd love it. It's so good. So good. I've
got the second
icon.
More you sound bitter about the Bitterroots omnibus. Fine. I was just hoping that. How about this? It's not bitter. It's just that these guys have had this little corner that not a lot of people talk about, and I was hoping success for them.
Yeah.
And a lot of my viewers only get hardcovers, and if every copy of the hardcover has a messed up binding, then it sucks, because then that means, oh well, I'm not gonna get it. So I don't want them to lose sales because of that, which sucks. And I think they're wonderful creators, and I love their stories. That's something I want to see turn into an animated movie, though. I just got James Robinson, Paul Smith's The Golden Age Deluxe hardcover. Still one. Yeah, that's a classic. Have you guys ever done Old Reader, New Reader for Gotham? Did we do Gotham Central?
Yeah,
I think we did, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you remember, Amanda?
I don't. If you did, it wasn't when I was on the show.
I feel like I have. But it has been 5 years.
Wait.
We've done
wait.
a lot of books.
Wait, there was like the main characters wore the Gotham PD, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
There was the night shift and the day shift.
Yep.
We did
Okay,
that.
we did do that. You're right.
Okay.
Mhm.
James, are you still here? James can
That's
check.
not what they based Gotham Knights off of, is it?
God, no.
Okay.
No.
I don't think Gotham Knights is based
I
on
think
anything.
it's canceled. Yeah, they pretty much.
Oh,
I
they
think
canceled it?
I think CW's getting out of the superhero business.
That's
Oh.
you know what? That's fine.
Yeah,
Just
they're.
go ahead.
they're
It
cutting
might
a
be
lot of
time.
those.
It might be
Give it a
time.
break.
Yeah, they're cutting a lot of those things.
Old reader, new reader, Gotham Central. See, I told you. April
Thank you,
21st,
James.
2020,
You did
with all
do
three
it.
of you.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I
That was-
remembered.
The heart of the
I remember.
pandemic. Look at that. 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
We came back. What about Extreme Justice or Justice League Task Force? More 90s than you
Oh man,
can
it's
ask
been a while
for.
since I've read in
What's up,
90s.
Kyle? That
Hey,
was on
Kyle.
Kyle's channel. If you ever want to watch an interview of me in Spanish. Whoa,
Nice.
it was rough. But he said I was
Well, you're
doing
doing
okay.
Duolingo. You'll get spun up in no
Yeah.
time.
Okay, first of all, I'm doing Duolingo in Japanese, not Spanish. You better quit that joking. CW needs to go back to teen drama
I think that's what they're gonna do.
like Buffy
Yeah.
and the
Well, I'll
Archies.
tell you, but
Riverdale.
now other streaming services have a monopoly. They're getting their own. Paramount Plus has like a ton of teen dramas.
Oh, and I'm watching all of them.
Did you watch the school? What is it called?
School Spirits? Yes,
Oh,
I did. Thank you,
love
Amanda.
School
No one
Spirits.
else is
Oh,
watching it.
I love Milo
Please tell me
Manningham.
you're watching Yellow Jackets, please.
So that's enough of that. We don't need to hear about CW teen drama. I can't believe
I
it.
have the power
You two are
too.
so sweet to mute yourselves when you're talking about teen drama, so you can talk amongst yourselves and
Well, then we can't hear each other.
Dare you.
When you muted us.
I'm sorry, you're not cool enough to watch Yellow
I'm
Jackets. and
really
School
excited to
Spirits.
watch Yellow Jackets. Okay,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saving it. It's in my
It's
queue.
a
I'm gonna
season
watch it.
finale this week.
You did awesome in Spanish. Muchas gracias, hermano. Muchas gracias. Omar, Maddie, and Amanda. It's almost half the year. What's your best?
Oh,
read of
it's
the year?
Lonely at the Center of the Earth.
That's a good one. That's in my top 10 for sure.
I don't know.
Oh,
I will tell you one that I just read. So there's a lot that I've read so far that I'm adding to my list, and I'm like, shit, I gotta now move things out because I do a top 10 every year. But the last one I read is called the Blue Flame. It is amazing. It's written by Christopher Cantwell, who has written Iron Man and Doom, and I loved every one of the things that he's written so far. The Blue Flame blew me away because I did not expect to read like a deep philosophical story about a journey. Not self-discovery, but like, what's your purpose? It's about this guy that's dressing up like a crime buster. He's not a superhero, but he's a crime buster. He's like fighting crime, and he's with his friends, and pretty much there's a mass shooting when they're going to go and sign autographs, and all his friends, all his team die, and he's alive. At the same time, he's being drafted into a trial for Earth to show these aliens, this tribunal, why Earth is worthy of saving. And he is his own lawyer. So you don't know what's real. You don't know what's not real. And it's like this beautiful journey. And his sister's part of the story. I loved it. It was so good. I cannot recommend that book enough. It's all in one, and it comes out. I believe it comes out in June or last week in May. It comes out last week in May. But it's beautiful. I loved it. Don't forget about Grease: Rise of the Pink Lady.
you skipped Amanda.
That's not a book.
Oh,
That's
well,
not a book.
I haven't read many comics this year so far, except for
Well,
older comics. So
Have you read prose this year?
No, I haven't. Oh, I have read one.
books.
Yes. Yeah, I got some of my book club books. So I read a lot of those, but none of them I would say were my favorite books. Well, my favorite novels I've read this year are by a author named Madeline Miller. One is The Song of Achilles. The other one is Circe.
Circe was so good.
So spectacular. I can't wait for her to come out with. She has another one coming out. I don't remember which Greek. Yeah. God.
That's what my brother's reading. He's like, yeah, everybody's talking about this Song of Achilles book. So
Because Song of Achilles is gay.
Song is. Yeah, it is. And it's great. But it is. Yeah.
Really? A book about those particular characters being gay?
Yeah,
I can't
it's
imagine. Wait, is it modernized or is it like
no? It's back in the day. It's like another retelling of Achilles' story.
He was telling me
it kind of reads like it too. I mean, it reads like a epic.
Yeah.
I think he left some things out because when he was telling me the premise, I'm like, this sounds like Wicked. like the version of the
I think he might have been missing some things too. But then, of course, tons of books for work too. You know how many books I've had to read on selling methodologies this year? It's and Oppenheimer's biography. That is one of my favorite reads. It actually is really interesting.
I'll wait for the movie. Michael, thank you so much.
I'm seeing the movie for Josh Hartnett. That's the only reason I'm watching it.
Is he in it?
Yeah, he is.
8.5, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, Michael.
Where did they find Josh Hart? Where was he working? Like at a Target?
Shut up.
No, he's been doing stuff.
He's been doing stuff. He was in Penny Dreadful.
He's so good in Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, I agree.
Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
Well, that's dreadful news.
And
with that, everybody, that was a really great show.
He's going to end it on that note.
Puns for days.
There will not be a show next week because I'm going to be in DC, but we will resume shows in June.
There you go. And I would like to be in one of those shows. And if I'm looking at my calendar right now, it looks like the only day I can do it is June 6th because I can't do it on the 13th. I'm taking Lydia and some friends of hers to Kings Island for her birthday. And the 20th, I'm flying out of the country. So can we schedule something for June 6th?
Sure.
And I'll let our Patreons vote for what we read next. I'll put up a couple of books out there. Some short books, seriously, like 6 issues. That's all I have the time to really read. I can't read an omnibus of something. Whew, that would be rough. I'm a fast reader, but Maddie's like freaking Johnny Five from Short Circuit. Yeah. So,
all right.
Anything else while we're out of here?
No.
Nothing
else. Oh, well, don't forget tomorrow's Reels Talk.
That's right. Reels Talk.
And
what are we doing?
We are doing, so I'm so excited for this, guys. We are doing a retro review of the original Fast and the Furious movie. That's right. Omar will be watching Fast and the Furious. And I cannot wait for this.
I just saw Fast 10 last night. I've only seen Fast 9 and Fast 10. I haven't seen any other movies. At this point, I'm continuing like that on purpose for the bit. But we did buy for my friend, she's a big Fast and Furious. I'll end it in a second. Bought the toolbox popcorn box you can get at the theater.
That's a legit thing. Which theater chain do you have to get it from? Cinemark. Okay.
It looks like a little toolbox. You put your popcorn in it.
Awesome. Yes, that'll be great.
I look forward to your thoughts, Omar.
I am 1 out of 10 excited for watching Fast and the Furious. I saw it in the theater with my cousin, and that was it. When I was like, well, this is stupid and not for me. And then the first one, right? I hadn't seen like 2, 3, 4, and maybe I saw glimpses of some other ones. Like I've seen the gifs of like the Rock.
You have to see 9. They go to space.
Yeah, and I'm like, if I thought the first one was stupid, like when they go
if they don't time travel by the time this trilogy is done.
Well, it's how Captain Marvel shows up in this one.
She does. She's an FBI agent.
Oh my gosh. All right, whatever. But I've only seen the first one, so it's gonna be weird revisiting that.
I have memes ready for this.
Oh. Wait a minute. There's an actual. Is this like Star Trek where I have to see the even ones, but in this I have to see the odd ones?
It depends. Like, are you counting? Yeah, are you counting 3? Are you counting Tokyo Drift? Or are you just saying
Tokyo Drift is 1, right? Even though, because what's his name shows up at the end, right? I know that much. Dom shows up at the end.
Yeah,
Lil Bow Wow was in it. Lil Bow Wow was in that one, right? With that one dude.
Yeah, this is Lil Bow Wow. What's he doing?
Friday Night Lights and the guy from what's it called? Or French fried taters. What the heck? Sling Blade. He was the kid in Sling Blade. That was my Billy Bob Thornton, French fried taters. That's what he kept calling.
I wouldn't have gotten that.
All right. With that, everybody go check out their Fast and Furious review tomorrow.
Please don't. Please don't. I don't.
Please don't.
Please don't. Because I don't know if. Okay, fine. I'll rewatch it. And then Thursday we are going to be live at 8 p.m. celebrating the 7 years near. 7 years Near Mint Condition has been.
I will drink for that one.
And I will too. And it'd be good to have everybody back. And we'll have the crew from Near Mint Collective on. And it'll be just a reunion and chill, come and party with us. Yeah. Good to see everybody. Yeah. That's
right.
And that's it.
Everybody have a good night. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.